Xcel Energy is taking residents to court to take some of their land, and the residents are not even Xcel customers. Xcel is building 500 miles of new transmission lines from the Eastern Plains to the metro area. The massive project requires levels of approvals that have been as smooth as the county projects and roads that it needs to go through. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
The scenery goes for miles. The breeze only interrupted by a passing semi-truck.
This property here will have anywhere from 40 to 100 horses.
During the breeding season, Mimsy here would not be the only pregnant horse.
We're effectively a labor and delivery ward.
Outside the stalls at Bar E North, a project that would impact the Denver metro area is currently stalled.
There'll be a tower just to the left side here of the driveway. They're going to be all along Highway 86 here.
These are not your everyday neighborhood power lines. Just how tall are they? Xcel is in the middle of its Power Pathway project, more than 500 miles of new transmission lines to get future renewable energy on the Eastern Plains to the Denver metro area where Xcel serves.
None of the power that comes through here is going to my barn. None of the power is going to Elizabeth, Kiowa. This is all just a pass-through.
But nothing is being built yet because this summer, Elbert County and El Paso County commissioners denied Xcel's permit requests to build the transmission lines through their counties.
After they were denied that, they went ahead and filed eminent domain on me.
Don Gray is a 30-year Elbert County resident at what he calls Wahoo Ranch, just off Highway 86. He is one of more than a dozen property owners Xcel is taking to court to take portions of land through eminent domain.
Once we know they're going to do the project, that's a different negotiation. Right now, there is no given that they're going to even have this project within Elbert County.
In a statement, Xcel said Elbert and El Paso County's decisions jeopardize the timely and cost-effective completion of Colorado's Power Pathway. Regarding eminent domain, Xcel said it's a last resort. Quote, for large right-of-way projects that cross hundreds of landowners, the use of condemnation authority is appropriate to ensure no single landowner may prevent critical infrastructure from being built. Don has built his own tower.
Because that's what we build out here as memories.
A directional arrow sign with cities of visitors to his home. I didn't happen to see Minneapolis, where Xcel is based.
I don't reckon I'm going to see them on my porch anytime soon.
Him and me both. Xcel is also going to court to get a judge to overturn Elbert County's and El Paso County's permit denials. This issue is also in front of the PUC, state regulators, so it could drag out into the middle of next year. The project has approved and completed projects on the ends, so there's being stuff built at both ends, the metro area and the far eastern plains. This is the middle section that needs to connect the two.
So we talk about this as kind of a rural issue, but it's really not the case. I mean, we've seen this play out in urban areas right here in Denver as well.
Yeah, think of the giant green cell phone towers that show up on city easements that property owners had no say over. They just, suddenly there's construction happening. What's this thing going there? This is the rural version of that, except it has to go on private property. So that's why they have a say, like, wait a minute, well, let's talk money first. I don't know if it should be here or whatever. And the county can deny it for the time being. But for the urban area, it's like you had no choice. There's the cell phone tower.
Right, exactly. Marshall, thank you. Federal workers are begging Congress to negotiate a spending plan as they prepare to receive their last paychecks until the government reopens. The Senate failed again today to advance plans to end the shutdown. The Republican plan that passed the House does not include rollbacks to health care cuts that Democrats say need to be part of the deal. At a news conference, leaders of labor unions representing hundreds of federal workers said many of them live paycheck to paycheck and cannot afford this shutdown to continue. They also called President Trump's threat to lay off federal workers, saying that's illegal. The IRS furloughed around half of its staff today, saying the other half of employees need to stay and prepare for next year's filing season. Our next conversation is with Colorado's Democratic Attorney General. Phil Weiser says America is headed for a moment of truth as President Trump tries to use the military against his political opponents. But Weiser told Kyle that Coloradans and Americans cannot be afraid to hold the line.
Our founders were afraid of this step. They knew that the military in cities would chill people's exercise of their rights, would leave people feeling occupied. That's exactly what this republic was founded on not happening. It cannot happen lightly. There's no basis in law or in on-the-ground facts for doing it We all need to speak loud and clear, and that's the one constraint we need. Public opinion has got to say we can't cross this line, not in America.
That said, people go into the streets to protest, and there are inevitably going to be tension points between federal officers and those protesters. And then President Trump has used those moments of altercations in the streets, even isolated, as then the predicate to send in more troops and so forth. What is your message to Coloradans who want to protest what ICE is doing in our community and who would want to protest if troops are ever sent here? What do you say to them?
Show up at the No Kings rally on October 18th at the Capitol. As many people as possible, and be as peaceful as possible. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to show up. But also, we've got to be peaceful. It's going to be a challenge because your point is right. If people do engage in provocative conduct, you're playing into the argument that there is some type of emergency.
Is there any scenario in which you think that non-peaceful reactions to ICE in the streets or to federal law enforcement is warranted?
No. No, this is very important.
Okay.
If you see ICE, you need to take out your phone and you can capture what's happening. That's a First Amendment right. But do not engage. Do not escalate. It's really important. If we can keep calm, be peaceful, and be orderly, we are going to continue to keep the rule of law in our republic.
A claim that has been made by the Trump administration in Chicago is that local law enforcement has failed to come to the aid of ICE officers who have been confronted by the public and who feel like they're in danger. Can Colorado law enforcement come to the aid of federal immigration agents without running afoul of state law that limits their cooperation?
Yes, this is very important. If someone is doing anything that is hostile, harmful to ICE, that's a crime. That is against the law, and that person needs to be held accountable, and Colorado law enforcement will do its job of enforcing the law.
A.G. Weiser is seeking the Democratic nomination for governor. Kyle asked him if his 37 lawsuits against the Trump administration are political posturing or good faith concerns. You can see that in their full unedited conversation on the Next YouTube channel and 9news.com. Denver is exploring a program that would change how much you pay to park in the city based on demand. The city's transportation department just shared some of the very early details with the city council committee. Our Spencer Soicher explains how the policy would work and why the city's considering it.
A story in Cherry Creek North starts with the basics, the guarantees. Like showing someone losing their sanity trying to find a place to park.
You always want to create a situation where you've got 1 or 2 spaces available at any time.
The city of Denver may try something to fix that problem.
Those things don't have a timeline, but we are exploring them.
Cindy Patton is the COO of Denver's Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, which is exploring a program that would change the way you pay to park in Denver through a model called demand-based parking.
So demand-based pricing would be looking at analytics that are provided by historical actual experience, actual demand, and then helping that inform what the pricing should be.
So let's use Cherry Creek North for an example, where the hourly rate for street parking right now is a universal $2 an hour. So parking next to the Cherry Cricket on 2nd and Clayton is $2 per hour. In a hypothetical world where I am absolutely making this entire scenario up, let's turn the streets green. Maybe the city realizes, hey, the Cricket's bringing everyone over here. With demand-based parking, the closer you are to the Cherry Cricket, the more you pay to park. Denver could choose to raise the hourly rate around 2nd and Clayton from $2 to $3 per hour. And in this cricket-ruling world, the further you get away from the restaurant, the demand goes down. The city could charge $2 at 2nd and Detroit, $1.50 at Fillmore, and $1 per hour at Milwaukee.
And then it would be constantly revisited, because we know that, again, the land uses drive the demand.
There's no timeline for when or if something like this would begin, but Patton says other cities are doing it, and Denver could try it.
Every block, every area, even every time of day is different.
The city says this isn't about extra parking revenue. Patton argues the city would collect far more money through sales tax revenue if people were able to come in and out of the area easily and more often.
Okay, so let's talk about this. The committee talks about demand-based structure, right? They also talked about something else, right, Spencer, called dynamic pay scale, this kind of thing?
Yeah, so there's the the one we talked about, and then there's dynamic, which is a more expensive way of doing this and would monitor in real time when things are happening. Maybe there's 37 people parked in a certain area downtown versus the one that we discussed a couple of minutes ago that would be like, oh, on Tuesdays there's usually about this many people at 9 o'clock.
Sounds like more expensive to run and maybe a little more dynamic, for lack of a better word.
That word works.
Thank you so much, Spencer. Week after week, your generosity helps nonprofits carry out important work across the state. Today, we have the opportunity to help low-income families get access to childcare. Here's Kyle with an update on this week's Word of Thanks.
Colorado's low-income families are squeezed to pay for childcare if they can find it at all. Together, though, we can help to build a pipeline of teachers to keep childcare centers operating and to support families with young kids who are just trying to get by. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County. That nonprofit serves young families in need in Adams County in a few ways. They help families access resources so that they can be stable and successful, to keep families out of homelessness and parenting successfully, including parenting classes to help families get their kids to kindergarten, meeting milestones like their peers. And they also help child care providers stay in business in Adams County by coaching and mentoring those small business owners, helping them open up new daycare centers where they're needed and stay open through a teacher pipeline that means that the loss of one employee does not mean the closure of a business and the loss of childcare suddenly for all those families. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get the link to donate. Your 5 years of microgiving raising $16 million proves that $5 donations add up. I will never ask you to give if I don't, so as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. And more than 6,000 of you have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info one time, and each month your donations automatically split to help all of the nonprofits we feature. And that has meant that recent microgiving campaigns have started with more than $30,000 in donations.
If we don't talk about it, we are just reinforcing the system that got us here. So let's talk about it until we can't anymore.
Same job, but different pay for different people. Today marks Latina Equal Pay Day. And your version of Denver probably looks different than someone else's. An exhibit is celebrating those different perspectives. Today marks Latina Equal Pay Day, highlighting a huge wage gap disparity. In 2025, believe it or not, research shows Latinas make 54 cents for every dollar earned by white men, meaning they could be taking home about half of what their white male colleagues make in the same job. This morning, there was a cafecito, a coffee and gathering event, highlighting and raising awareness about this, put on by organizations Amigas in Tech and Justice for Migrant Women. They wanted to create a space to talk about how to move forward towards real change, like advocating for yourself. We asked some of the Latinas there if they have ever experienced this pay disparity.
I started working in the technology and startup space pretty young, around 18, and it became clear to me relatively quickly that my white male counterparts were making thousands of dollars above me. And as my career progressed and I got all of my accolades and I got all of my quote unquote receipts, I still was not able to pass that barrier.
The company that I was working with, I was doing basically everything for them. And it came a point where I was looking at the financials and they were not making sense. It turns out that they brought in this other person making essentially $15,000 more a month than I was making.
A new report from the nonprofit Justice for Migrant Women shares this gap has barely budged in 10 years, and in rural areas, the gap is even wider. We asked the women at today's event why this is still such an issue in 2025 and what can be done to address it.
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think there's cultural reasons, but ultimately it's really a systemic reason. You know, we are working and living in systems that were built hundreds of years ago.
This happens because people don't want to admit that we have different starting levels, but the reality is we do. And the more that we actually start paying attention to that, the more that we can actually make strides in this conversation to get to the place where pay equity actually happens for us.
This year marks the 10th anniversary of this campaign, the National Latina Equal Pay Campaign. For all of our Latinas out there, all of the women out there as well, I hope you take the advice to advocate for yourself, have the hard, uncomfortable conversations with the people you trust, and the confidence to never settle for less. All right, Chris, it has been pretty nice weather. But I didn't love the last few days, but I guess that's fall, right?
Yeah, it's fall, isn't it? Here, Angeline, we started off on a nice and cool note. 41 degrees this morning, our coolest temperature since May the 27th. And then we rebounded at 39 degrees up to 80 degrees in Denver. That's a 39-degree differential in just 12 hours. Denver, gonna Denver. That's something we are pretty used to here in the Mile High City. Otherwise, our next big thing to watch for, showers and storms from the remnants of what was Hurricane Priscilla. That'll stream north and really impact the mountains for Friday and Saturday with widespread showers and storms. In Denver, though, tomorrow will be at 82. Daily record is 87 for us for tomorrow. Highs for tomorrow, 80s Eastern Plains, 60s and 70s for us in the mountains. But those showers and storms in the mountains, those will become more widespread for Friday and for Saturday. So watch out if you're heading to the high country this weekend. It looks pretty stormy. Otherwise, here in Denver, we're mostly on the dry side with highs in the 70s over the next few days.
The Year Denver allows the city to really see, people in the city to see our city through everyone's eyes.
Photographers got the chance to show their favorite parts of Denver from their own viewpoints. An annual photo contest is highlighting the way artists around the city see architecture interacting with nature. Nearly 200 submissions were made to the Your Denver photography competition. We got a chance to see the 30 winners on display.
The Year Denver exhibition we've done for the last few years. Sometimes it's just been open, like just what does that look like? This year, the focus for Doors Open Denver was nature and harmony. So that was the theme for this year's exhibition. So that was really what we kind of asked artists to consider as they were focusing on images. This exhibition has traditionally been online. We were so excited to work with the Chancery Art Space and with Colleen Fanning to utilize this exhibition space so that we could actually print all 30 images from 23 artists.
I love that artists have the opportunity to see their work in a space like this. It's always just super heartwarming.
It's great to see photographers who are like, oh, I have that picture of that building, or maybe I should have submitted that one. And I'm like, well, but you see, everyone sees it differently and sees those spaces differently. I think photography is such a democratic medium. It's not like painting or sculpture where you really need a lot of training in order to participate with that medium. My hope is that it inspires people to go visit different parts of the city that they maybe didn't realize existed, or spaces that existed. That's what I love about this competition, is that it is a mix of people who are professionals and amateurs, and they're coming at it from all different perspectives.
Love some of those. We're back with your feedback next. Thank you.
I talked recently with the head of the nonprofit Early Child Care Partnership of Adams County, and she said that they are really worried about the low-income families that they serve as they lose Medicaid and food benefits. Now, that nonprofit is not able to provide them with health care, but they do help with food and other expenses, and they help sort out another huge expense for those families, child care. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to join me in giving to the Early Child Care Partnership of Adams County. They help daycare centers start up and stay open through expert training and a teacher pipeline. And they offer parenting classes so that kids are able to meet their developmental milestones and be ready to succeed in school. Thank you, as always, for supporting those in need in Colorado.
All right, feedback. This is from an email. Demand-based parking, call it what it really is, surge pricing. That's branding, yeah, it is surge pricing, some would say. Now, I like this one from Pete. Is there a fashion contest between Angeline and Kyle? If so, Angeline is in the lead. Go for it, as it is fun. It is fun, but not a competition because we already know who would win. I'll let you guys decide who that would be. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.